Alright, we are back into it. I am reading Awoken by Sarah Ellenson. And I've just finished chapter 2 and I'm heading straight into chapter 3. 3 kids. Not Harry, Ron and Hermione, but like not them. And not Bella and Jacob and an extra friend, but like also not them. Yeah, they are heading into the auditorium after school to read from the Necronomicon. So here we go, chapter 3, Convocation. Sorry, my my finest and cheapest extensions are just not sitting quite right. Anyway, the auditorium was dark and no one was about. It was the perfect place to read Vic's mysterious old book. You know what? I'm taking it aside way too early in this, but if and when I have children or like the ownership of a child for a while, like as a babysitter or whatever, I am teaching them not to read from ancient books, especially if you don't understand the language. Just like run it past someone first, do an internet search. Don't read a mysterious old book of magic, okay? If you do, don't read it aloud. If you read it aloud, don't also do stuff that's like ritualistic in the text. I don't know. And don't bleed on it. Excuse me. It was the perfect place to read Vic's mysterious old book. Well, it would have been if there had been more light. But this problem could be easily solved, as I was never without my portable clip book light. She wants so desperately to be a nerd. I'm guessing that people would use their phones. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, this isn't even to do with the book, it's just something I was thinking about. But like, you know in horror movies where the lights go out and they pick up their phone and put the phone torch on and go through the dark like that? Like, they look like gothic heroines holding the candle going through the scary mansion. I think it's very cool. It's all wrapped around, background to that. It's neat. This is the last neat thing we're going to hear about, probably. As we pass through the wings, it's the auditorium there at Wings. As we pass through the wings, I noticed an abundance of strange, macabre props and devices. Swords, bloody cloaks, tribal garments, skulls, a grimy old bathtub. I feel like this will come into play later, but I also feel like it might not, because she's not a good writer. What is all this stuff? I asked. It's for the Halloween play, Bree answered matter-of-factly. One of the seniors wrote it, Natalie. You remember her, she was the lead in Our Town last year. I don't know that play and I'm happy. Ah yes, she wasn't bad as far as I recalled. In fact, she had performed the role quite well. I just hadn't been so pleased with the choice of production. It was a bit overdone. I don't think I'd ever heard of a high school that hadn't done Our Town at least 12 times. Don't see it, Bree added, referring to the Halloween show. It's horrible. I joined the drama club very briefly at the beginning of high school. And the play my school chose to put on was... what's it called? That awful Gilbert and Sullivan with all the, the racist caricatures and stuff. Yeah. I was only 13. I didn't know why I was so uncomfortable with characters like Yum Yum and such. But I was. So I was like, no thank you. No thank you, I don't want to be in this play. What's the name of the bloody play? Oh, I can't remember. Doesn't matter. The Minotaur! No. The Mikado. There we go. Now we can carry on. Don't see it, Bree added, referring to the Halloween show and possibly the Mikado. It's horrible. The props are spooky at least, Vic observed uneasily. They were incredibly creepy, actually. Not that I was scared or anything, but Vic, on the other hand, was eyeing a skeleton like it was about to bite him. I watched Bree creep up behind him. Boo! She yapped in his ear, prompting him to practically leap out of his corduroys. I hate you, he growled as we laughed. Would you prefer to do this somewhere else? I teased. Actually, he responded, why don't we just go out into the arts garden? It'll be easier to see out there anyway. Oh, the arts garden. Yet another reason why I couldn't stand my school. It was just too perfect. It had Sorry. There was almost going to be a sneeze, but then it wasn't. Sorry, it's springtime here. It had an actual legitimate garden with plants and a fountain and stuff outside, right behind the auditorium. Ooh, my school had patches of garden too. And a fountain, but wait, we did have a fountain. There was never water in it. Was this real? I don't know, it's been a long time. Outside, right behind the auditorium. If you insist, I answered, resigned. Because I hate my fucking friends and everything they do sucks because I'm too smart and the only one who understands me could possibly be a handsome Cthulhu. Actually, that was kind of me in high school. Apart from the Cthulhu thing. As we filed out the back of the theatre, Bree plucked up an old, surreal-looking sword and used it to prop open the door so we could get back inside. We sat down on a swing bench beneath one of the small trees, and Vic placed the book on the bench between us. In the afternoon light, the weighty tome at first seemed old, but harmless, until I took a closer look. The tanned leather of its binding was wrinkled with age, but completely clean, as if no dirt or dust had ever dared to rest upon it. I wondered uneasily what animal the leather had come from. A raised design of dark stitching swirled around a flat piece of obsidian that was embedded in its centre. I caught my faint reflection in its dull, glassy sheen and leaned away from it instinctively. Dull and glassy. That's interesting. Looking into the black disk felt like looking into the deepest ocean. The sensation made me suddenly queasy. Wow, where did your folks find this thing? I asked, trying to shake the nausea from my body. She's already pregnant with Cthulhu. Maybe. It's actually a family heirloom or something. It just came down to my mother when my great-uncle died. Oh, Vic, Bree said, I'm so sorry. Because she has human emotions. It's okay, he shrugged. I didn't really know him. Mother was pretty broken up, though. I was too distracted by the book to listen to what they were going on about. My best friend's family tragedy. Whatever. My hand reached out to its cover, but I nearly recoiled when my fingertips grazed the leather. It felt warm, as if it were alive. I thought I saw something shimmer across the glossy disc, making an excited thrill course through me. I felt beckoned. Well, go on, open it. Bree's voice knocked me out of my reverie. I reached for the cover with both hands this time, but was stopped as Vic put his hands over mine. You know, on second thought, he said, the unease evident on his face, it's just a stupid old book. Let's just... Yeah, so open it, Bree smirked. No, it's... Maybe I shouldn't have brought it here. I think I'll just take it back home, he said. Though I realized he wasn't even looking at the book. He was eyeing my expression with confusion and concern. What is she doing? She's staring at that book like... Probably. She's a dumb whore. I'm sorry I keep calling her a dumb whore. It's nothing against whores. I don't mean to use a slut-shaming word. I just call myself a dumb whore in my head and aloud when I'm at home all the time. Very sorry. I'm even apologising to Andromeda Slack. That's how apologetic I am. I blinked and gave him an offended look. What? I'm not afraid of it. In that moment, I felt the very opposite of afraid. Yeah, Vic, Bree said. Look, it's just a stupid book. They didn't say it's cursed, he mumbled. His excitement from this morning about that fact apparently dissipated. Every story that surrounds this thing says it. I just don't. Vic, it's going to be fine, I slowly said, like he was a dummy. I slowly said, although to reassure him or myself, I wasn't sure. Let's just look at it, and before you know it, you'll be paying Bree her $5. Yeah, so no backing out now, she added. Vic sighed and released my hands, but he hardly looked relieved. I almost hope you're right. I nodded and lifted the cover, opening to the first page. But before I could take in the words on the brittle vellum, Vic took the book from me. But I'll do the reading, thank you, he said. I shrugged and folded my arms. Go for it, archaeologist boy wonder. Vic's eyes remained on me for a moment, but then he shook his head with a faint smile and looked down. He turned to the centre of the book with reverent fingers and found a place to begin. Right to the centre? Why not? In his house at Rillier, Vic read, his voice low. Dead Cthulhu. Bless you, Bree interrupted. Okay, maybe I didn't know what a Cthulhu was, but at least I could tell it wasn't a sneeze. Sometimes I felt sorry for Bree. Despite how smart she was always so awkward and quirky. I loved her for it, but it must have been embarrassing for her when she was around other people. Maybe it was a good thing I was her only friend. Okay, so suddenly Bree is so quirky and kind of dumb despite how smart she is. In the last chapter, Bree had lots of friends and effortless charm and was the life of the party, and now she's awkward. I think maybe there was a third best friend in here that got cut and all their qualities got smashed into one. I don't know. What? No. Vic rolled his eyes. Cthulhu is Cthulhu is a mythical monster. A sort of giant octopus dragon thing that some ancient cult once worshipped. Sorry, my throat's tickly. I keep fucking up the words. An octopus dragon thing. I was immediately reminded of the sea monster from my dream. Hey, baby. It's Flora trying to sleep. I glanced to Bree to see if she drew the connection as well, but she was focused on Vic. No, it had to have been a coincidence. Yeah, you have a really mysterious and fucked up dream. The next day, an ancient book of unspeakable magic shows up, describing the same thing. It's fine, just keep reading it aloud, dude. Just go. Oh, sorry, came Bree's apology. Go on then, I prodded, partly to distract Vic from poor Bree's misguidedness. See, I told you she fucking hates Bree. And partly because I was even more intrigued by the mysterious book. Keep reading. Vic looked back to the page and began again. In his house at Rillier, dead Cthulhu lies dreaming. Yes, great Cthulhu is dead, as much as he can be, but there is a hideous, unutterable gloom to this death. I was reminded of the inscription on the tomb in that terrible Cyclopean city. That is not dead which can eternal lie, yet with strange aeons even death may die. Not from a Necronomicon, just from H.P. Lovecraft short stories, but there's no real Necronomicon, so whatever, doesn't matter. Suddenly a thunderclap shook the sky and Vic jumped, dropping the book. Oh great, I teased. You didn't lose your place because you were scared of a little thunder, did you? Honestly, I was a bit unnerved too, but I didn't dare show it. Vic picked the book back up and pushed it onto my lap. Alright, you read it then, he half shouted as another roll of thunder pealed over us. I still say it's cursed. Fine, I answered. I turned the book over and gave Vic a look. He could be such a baby sometimes. You're such a baby about reading out of this cursed book, honestly. I opened it up and came to a page that seemed near to where he was before. Okay, I felt a great force overpowering my mind, as if 1,000 eldritch horrors were pressing against my skull. I fell, and the world darkened, and then the voices. Those dreadful voices began to speak in my head, and they have not since stopped. Even now I can hear them. Sigmwal, Shak Shok, Throd, Cthulhu I. The wind began to pick up, blowing my hair into Vic's face. I realized that the words I had just read were not printed in English, yet I had no difficulty pronouncing them despite the deficiency of vowels. I read on, growing fascinated by the author's hallucination. He calls to me, dead Cthulhu shall rise again, Un Cthulhu, Ugain Ya. And then I realized, yeah, I was speaking the same language I'd heard in my dream. Impossible as it seemed, I was sure of it. Was this book somehow related to my dream? Maybe it was mystical after all. It almost seemed as if the very words I spoke had a direct effect on the sky, which was getting darker, the wind growing more furious. Guys, maybe we should stop. Bree winced. It looks like there's a wicked bad storm coming. Not just a bad storm, a wicked bad storm. But I hardly heard her, and I ignored the powerful wind. I simply kept reading. I had to keep reading. I could not stop. I felt as if I were falling into a trance. That is how I feel when I'm reading this book. I feel like I've fallen into a nightmare dimension where everything is really dumb. The only thing that existed to me at that moment was the book, the Necronomicon. The demoniac cries never cease, I read. He shall rise from the depths of the sea, and the earth shall be no more. I was vaguely aware of birds taking off all around us, as if trying to escape the magnificent, mad manuscript from which I read. The effect was empowering, and my voice grew louder, oh, teenagers, as I recited more of the strange language, which somehow in that moment seemed to make so much sense to me. Kfatagu shug Cthulhu, der trod, Kfatagu shug Cthulhu, der negli, Kfatagu shug Cthulhu, der gelfulnaw. Not bad for my first attempt. As I spoke the last word, the loudest clash of thunder I'd ever heard rang out directly above us. The sound shook through me, reverberating straight into my core. The skies filled with jagged streaks of lightning, and a powerful gust of rain attacked me, forcing the book closed. Bree screamed, and Vic muttered something in Hindi that was lost beneath the riotous wind. You remember Vic. He was brought up Hindu, so he's fascinated by mythology, naturally. Andy, we have to get back inside now, Bree said worriedly as a branch was blown off from a tree behind us. Where did such a storm even come from? The forecast hadn't mentioned anything of the kind. It couldn't have had anything to do with the book. Could it? The Necronomicon did seem to describe things eerily similar to what I saw in my dream. That Cthulhu thing sounded almost exactly like the huge green squid monster that the beautiful boy had saved me from. But how could reading it have any bearing on the weather? Unless Vic was right, and the book was cursed. In that case, Bree owed him a good $5. Okay, Andy's priorities are hilarious throughout this book. They should be jokes, they should be lighthearted joke moments, but because she's not written competently as a smart character, it just comes across as her just being too dumb to understand what's important about any given moment. Which is great, it improves the whole experience for me. I'm just saying, it's just a terrible book. Bree's second prompt of, guys, brought me out of my thoughts. Vic took up the Necronomicon, and we hurried back inside the theatre. Bree pulled the sword from the door, and we ducked into the green room, which, despite its name, only had a vaguely greenish carpet. She doesn't even know what a green room is or why it's called that. It's fine. We sat in a circle, catching our breath, and Vic put the book down in the middle of it. He crossed his arms and frowned in much more than annoyance. He was not happy. I don't know why I let you talk me into this, he chastised Bree. She rolled her eyes dismissively, but her freckled cheeks were red and splotchy, and she looked really ugly, especially compared to me. I was so pale and uninteresting looking, but also beautiful, but doesn't know it, but I didn't even wear makeup because I wasn't like those girls. Oh, I'm sorry, it just cut off at red and splotchy. Whatever, she muttered. It's just a storm. This was a stupid idea, Vic said with a frown. I should have left this thing at home. All I wanted to do was show it to you, Andy. I know how you... He hesitated as he looked up at me. You shouldn't have just read from it like that. Who knows what you just did? What? Me? I stared at him in disbelief. Swiping the thing from his parents and bringing it to school had been his idea in the first place. I read your book and it started raining, Vic. That is all that happened. Why is this a big deal? He shook his head and lifted a hand to ruffle some raindrops out of his curly hair. Because the book is powerful, he muttered, and cursed. Right, Vic, I answered blankly. You just keep telling yourself that. What if he's right, though? Bree abruptly inquired. What if somehow it actually is? She hesitated at the word. cursed. I gaped at her. Now Bree was suddenly on his side. She was the one who'd bet against him. Why was it that whenever Vic and I disagreed, Bree always joined with him? She was supposed to be my best friend. Okay, firstly, you're talking about a cursed book, and secondly, isn't it obvious, Daddy? Ariel's in love. I loved that. I want to see more from that sister. She was great. Whose side are you on? I demanded. What happened to there's no such thing as magic? Nobody's side, she replied. There don't have to be sides here. I'm just pointing out that if the book actually is cursed, we could be in big trouble. I mean, if this were a horror movie, we probably would have just summoned up the mighty demon Beelzebub or something. While those sorts of movies weren't exactly the kind of thing I ever chose to watch, I'd heard enough about the cliches to know how they all worked. Yeah, I retorted, and the token ethnic guy would be the first victim, and the awkward best friend soon after. Okay, now I see why you're siding with him. Bitch! Okay, so the ethnic guy going first is a horror movie trope. Tasteless to bring it up, though. And Andy just carelessly puts herself in the position of protagonist, and Bree is the awkward best friend. That is the bitchiest move. Oh my god. Vic's expression darkened. This is serious, Andy. No, Vic, it's stupid, I snapped. She's right there. Look, Bree answered, trying to defuse the situation. Let's just leave it. Vic, you can take your creepy book back home and we'll just forget all this ever happened, okay? I suddenly realized that I wanted to protest. Something within me burned for more time with the Necronomicon. I wanted to see if it contained anything else that might relate to my dream. But if I asked Vic to let me see it again, then I'd practically be admitting that I thought it was a magic book. Which I didn't. Except... Ugh. I didn't know what to think. Fine, I said, as inoffensively as I could. It didn't have any venom behind it, really. I didn't mean to sound angry or even annoyed. I actually meant it as a sort of resignation. But Vic stood up with the book and left the room without another word to either of us. I couldn't tell whether he interpreted it as such. Are you alright, Andy? Bree queried, clearly concerned. I wondered for a moment why she was asking me that. It was hardly the first time Vic and I had disagreed, and it wasn't exactly a huge argument. I knew we would make up tomorrow, or even tonight if we saw each other online later. We'd have our usual, no, it's my fault really, back and forth for a minute, and then life would go on as normal. Andy? Bree prompted. You look like you're about to pass out. I looked in the mirror on the green room wall and realized that she was right. I was pale, shaking. Suddenly, I felt incredibly weak, as if all my energy had instantly been drained away, as if the experience with the book had stolen a bit of my soul. Everything became a blur, and then darkness. But don't worry, there's some tildes and asterisks, which doesn't scream fanfiction to me, but chapter's not over yet. I was back on the cliff face of my dream. There were the waves crashing on the rocks below. And there was the creature, the giant green-winged monster. Ooh. It began to reach for me with a webbed hand tipped with long, jagged claws. But then I heard my own voice echoing everywhere, though I did not speak. Kiftagu, Shukatulu, my voice cried out from the distance. It is so hard to say these Cthulhu words without accidentally saying an anti-gay slur. Like I'm trying to pronounce them right. So, if that ever happens, I am very sorry. Just like last time, the beast vanished in a chaotic flash of darkness and nothingness. A flash that was strangely blinding, yet wonderfully beautiful in spite of its chaos. Aww, she's talking about me. When I could again see, I once more beheld the boy. That beautiful, immaculate boy. Oh, he's a very clean boy. I gazed into his eyes, even as he glared back at me. We shared each other's gaze for what seemed like eons before I blinked, and he was replaced by... Vic? Andy, Vic called. Wake up, Andy. But I don't want to wake up. I wanted to remain in the dream with the boy. But he was gone. What happened? I asked groggily as I sat up in the school nurse's office. You fainted, Bree answered. After that enlightening statement, the nurse riddled me with questions about whether or not I was eating sufficiently, if I'd suffered any blows to the head recently, and so on and so forth. She's just naturally dumb. When I was finally set free from the confinement of the bleached white room, Vic, ever the humble pal, offered an apology. I am really sorry, Andy, he admitted. I shouldn't have blamed you. It's okay, I answered. I forgive you. Is this what their arguments are always like? He says sorry and she says I forgive you without admitting any wrongdoing. Oh, Vic, I wish you luck with the substitute teacher, even though it's wrong. Because this bitch is a bitch. Let her go. The storm had apparently passed as quickly as it came, and as we left school, we talked for a few minutes about class and Mr. Dunleavy's latest barrage of horrible history puns and everything that wasn't the Necronomicon, before eventually parting ways in the parking lot. Vic took off on his Vespa, but as I walked with Bree to her car, I had the oddest sensation that I was being watched. I looked behind me, but the place was deserted. All the other students had left campus long ago, and only a few lonely faculty cars remained. What is it? Bree asked, always quick to jump in with the third degree. She's your friend and she cares about you, Andy. Oh, Andromeda, you piece of shit. You're gonna kill me before this book was done. I shook my head dismissively, but as I went around to the passenger side of her car, the feeling struck me again, an icy chill that made my flesh crawl. I twisted back to look over my shoulder, and this time I saw someone standing on the school steps. Across the expanse of the parking lot, his eyes met mine, and I instantly felt an overwhelming sense of hatred emanating from them. I tensed and pulled the car door open, scrambling inside. For a moment, I wasn't sure if I even knew the guy, but then I realized it was him. The boy from my dream. And that is the end of chapter 3. Sarah Allenson, Awoken. Driving me nuts. I really hope you enjoyed that. I actually enjoy reading it, and I'm trying really hard to get the asides under control, so. And, yeah, I guess I will see you next time. I was going to do another chapter of Twilight, Life and Death today, but I don't think my voice is actually up to it, so